Welcome to Daddies, the podcast. I'm Eric.
And I'm Greg.
And this week we have a very special guest on. His name is Phil Korz. He's one of my very oldest friends. Welcome, Phil, to the podcast.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. Actually, dude, I've known you my whole life. And, just the fact that we're in the same business of entertainment, I never even knew it was your dream to do a podcast. It's awesome.
You know what? Me neither.
It just kind of happened one day.
We just did some stuff and people thought it was funny enough and they said you should do a podcast. And after the 15th time somebody said that, we were like, all right, I guess we got to.
And it was something that we always just joked about it for years. And we started with a GoFundMe to people were paying us to eat fast food on camera. And we did that for what, Eric? 3 months. You almost fucking died, and then
yeah, I got fat, and you went in the hospital.
Yeah.
Well, eating fast, or just different fast foods. That was the whole premise of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we would go to different places, take requests, and we would just eat all of it, and I guess kind of rate it. I guess there's plenty of people that do that now, but this was
2016, 2017, and it started because someone that I was friends with on Facebook, she was like, hey, I want a new computer, and people were just giving her fucking money to buy a computer. So I was like, yo, Eric, hot. People are paying her just to fucking get a computer. Let's see if people will pay us to eat food. So we had our lunches funded for fucking 2-3 months straight.
I'm not starting out now.
Great.
I'm starting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were eating for no money, not on camera. So we just, I guess that's a fair exchange.
Yeah. Right.
There is a show out there called Someone Feed Phil, and that's I don't even know what it's about, but it sounds like something for me.
You should ask to be on their show.
For sure, yeah.
Just get fed a little baby spoon.
That's perfect.
And Phil, I've heard about you a lot, but I don't think we've ever actually met. But your name has popped up multiple times in multiple different parties, and so it's nice to officially meet you, even though it's via the computer screen. But
this is perfect. Yeah, man. I'm glad I'm on the topic of at parties. You know what I'm saying? That's fun time to be,
Oh, we've got plenty of fun party stories.
Oh yeah.
But Greg, before you judge Phil, I have to tell you, I'm fairly certain those aren't the way that his eyebrows look here aren't how they look.
Are those not? I didn't want to say anything, but so you do in fact have eyebrows.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? Because you guys have been in the barber before when they do that little trim over their eyebrows sometimes with the shaver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just did that and looking at myself for the first time, and I thought I didn't have eyebrows either. So I didn't have time to pencil them in, and this is just the look I'm going to have to deal with for this podcast and probably for the next 2 weeks, maybe even longer.
This is who you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
Yeah. So full disclosure, America world, I usually do have eyebrows. I usually have a big unibrow, actually. So thanks for that.
Got to keep them nice and trimmed.
It's it gets so bad sometimes. One side starts attacking the other side like a Pokemon battle, and it's dude, this isn't. But
I had a similar situation going on, not with my unibrow, but I looked real scruffy right before, and the camera and the light really bring it out. So I had to I literally just shaved. I was glad I wasn't bleeding.
Do you get a unibrow?
Oh yeah,
yeah, me too.
Oh, yeah, it's just like a big hungry caterpillar.
Yep, you just gotta fucking shave in there and hope you don't accidentally
just like a lawnmower.
Go too far over.
Yeah, I like going to the salons because they're like, "You want your leg wax?" And I was like, "No, just the eyebrows."
Oh yeah, it's great.
And then sometimes it's even worse too. I mean, right now it looks pretty bad, but sometimes when I go to the salons, my eyebrows will be so thin, and then my face is red and blotchy for 3 weeks. I'm like, dang, you're right. I'm never really in a good phase.
I've never done that before. I've only ever gone for what did I get? A pedicure? Is that the foot one? I got a pedicure before.
You've never had your a legit eyebrow waxing?
No,
it's so good.
No
It's
waxing,
so
no facials.
I mean,
It's
not
No,
this
no,
type
no.
of facial, right?
I don't like. I'm not used to being pampered. I only had like 2 massages. Did I tell you guys about that? So the first time. So here's. I went in and I didn't know how to bit like anything. I didn't know any of the rules or anything like that. So she says, get undressed to your
Wait, the
comfort
rules
level.
to get a massage?
Yeah, I guess there's not necessarily. I won't say rules, but
I think you just don't pull your dick out. Typically, I think that's good.
I didn't.
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't.
yeah.
I didn't do that, but I did. I was giving a lot of feedback. Like as it felt good, I was going, "Ah, yes, oh, that feels so good." And I didn't even know at the time that that was like not okay. And I
Yeah.
get home and I tell Shay that that's what I was doing. I was like, "Oh yeah, I was giving good feedback," and she was like feeding off of it and doing. And she said, no, you fucking didn't. No, you didn't go in there and go, "Oh yeah, that feels so good." And now I feel like I can't go back.
There's probably a
I
picture of
feel
you on
like
the
that's
wall.
you went to the wrong place. So I'm not sure what your situation should be or whatever. Let me tell you, I've been to every happy ending massage in the country, and my goal is to possibly write a book on it. And whew, man, there's some great. Once they start tickling your butt, then you know what's happening. So
Yeah,
that's
is
good.
that the sign?
Yeah,
you
is
can
that-
roll
is that the
over.
go-to?
Okay.
The shadier the place is, the more likely it's going to be something. Ungood's going to happen.
That
So I
makes
feel like
sense.
you have to let them guide you. You don't get to guide it. You have to let them kind of.
Yeah. So basically, I would say rule of thumb here, general rule of thumb is that when they say address to your comfort level, I get butt ass naked. I don't put the towel, I don't cover
Sure.
up. I let it just
Yep.
all out. Then
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
then they go, they do their thing, and then it's just like then you just kind of you do let them guide it, but like when you turn over and you got a flagpole,
Sure.
and it's
Yeah.
like what's gonna happen here, and they get it up, they're like,
Okay.
yeah, so. It's been great. Actually, like that's been my goal. My goal is to go to a place like that in every state. I've hit a bunch.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no
What state?
I'm man who have a lot of stories.
What state was your favorite?
Yeah.
I would say actually there's some good ones in Delaware, but
And where like
yeah.
you can tell us off camera where
Yeah,
those,
for anyone asking,
yeah.
First of all, I don't know why you would want to raid these places anyway. Like it's the best thing ever. I don't like nothing. Anyway, but I would say California was probably my best experience. Hollywood.
Yeah.
That was like one of my first times, and that was like there was like 2 of them involved, and it was just like one was massaging and one was massaging, and it was just like whoa.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I feel like Hollywood, like Cali, that would be probably also kind of easy to find.
Yeah. Also, my parents' basement right now, so hopefully they're not upstairs. But anyway,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right.
oopsie.
They're gonna come down, and if they come down, let them join.
Yeah, right. That's even better.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? I do. Why would she say that's a bad thing to do to get feedback? Like, was there a language barrier, or like, what else would you do to say that your things were good?
No, I don't. I guess it was just it sounded embarrassing to moan. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, but like you weren't doing it like out of a place. Like you weren't even like really being sexual with it. You know, like
no. I was very respectful and didn't want to like. I didn't want to give off the vibe that it was like that. So what? Maybe they don't have that written in my notes because that's what I imagine is that because it's in a big chain. So I feel like they have like, hey, shared notes for every place. This he's a moaner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to think about how many fucking people come through, and they're not like they're just trying to get something out of it, right? Like that. I feel like that's probably not that obscure compared to some of these fucking people that do come in. You know,
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
or maybe not, I don't know.
I feel like sometimes too, like I mean, like because they ask about the pressure and things like that. So it's like that is I would consider that good feedback. Is it's okay, they're doing the right thing. They
Sure.
don't need to go harder or lighter. It's like kind of like that's just like because sometimes when I go because like I said they're very shady. So there is usually a language barrier. So like I try to flirt with them and then make a joke.
Sure.
But usually don't get it, but it's always that awkward laugh where we're like, we don't even know what we're laughing at. But we're not here. And so then it's one of those kind of things. But also like sometimes when you don't like when you say like, oh, like I always like try to like give like birth like physical cues where I'm like, good, yeah, good, because
Sure.
good. And so I feel like I don't think anyone really knows what to do in that situation. I think we just like you be like super quiet. Do you just take it? Do you like you say something? I feel like sorry Shay, but I feel like you did the right thing.
Now,
Good. All right. Well, I'm going to go back. I'm going to take some of your recommendations, Phil.
Yeah, you're
Now,
not
who
going
do
to
you
be saying
think-
not from my places.
now, what about a dude giving a happy ending to another dude? Like, you think that's easier to obtain than a lady happy ending?
Yeah, I don't think you have to go to a massage parlor. I think you just have to go out to the club on a Friday night.
I go
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, right, right. How do you find one of those?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. There's
okay, that's fair.
There's it's funny because every time that I've ever done the massages or whatever, there wasn't a female, but I did go to this place in New York, and it was definitely shady. It was like in his basement, and there was like a kid in the corner, and the kid was like playing a video game. And then
Okay.
I didn't like because you start with your head down and you don't really know what's happening, but like the pressure just felt too much. But I like lifted my head up and it's like this dude, and I'm like, I think I'm going to bet. I think I don't want this one. I don't want to go any further. than this.
Isn't that a Seinfeld episode
Is it?
Oh, yeah, where he's like, I think it moved.
where George
He's like-
George goes and this big Russian dude comes and says to him, and he goes and it flashes to the apartment after he gets his massage, and he goes, Jerry, I think it moved. It moved.
So when we got married, we went and got couples massages, and I had a really big Russian dude give me the massage. And for whatever reason, we thought getting the same like sex was like, oh, we'll be more comfortable. And I got this big motherfucker, and he was just ragdolling me the whole fucking time. So it wasn't enjoyable. It was kind of fucking. It wasn't even uncomfortable
Yes,
because it was a dude. It was just painful. Like the dude was just manhandling the shit out of me. But it definitely moved for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you're healing some kind of something. You know?
Sure.
So,
So Phil, how did you get started, man? Like I've heard, stories obviously through Eric and Shay, but like what is kind of like your beginning in your, in your world, your industry?
Or do you want to start even with the background first?
Yeah,
and,
yeah, we can even
say,
kind of
what all you're into and doing.
Yep.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. So right now I am currently a stand-up comedian and a film producer. And not that kind of film yet, but I did do a gay movie once, and
So don't count it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Big things are happening. But yeah, so it was my dream to do stand-up ever since I was in 8th grade. I thought it was the coolest thing. I would love watching Comedy Central Presents, which was back in the day. It was like a random 30 minutes. It was always like every night they had just new comedians and seasoned comedians, all this other stuff. And I would be in my room with a remote control, just pretending I was telling jokes on stage. And I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing. And then I started writing in high school stories, situations I thought were funny, but I kind of kept it to myself because, like, you tell people you want to be in the NFL, they're like, you should probably, not do that. But so I was kind of a little self-conscious about it. I didn't know it was like a realistic dream to have, but I always just like kind of was the observer, and I would always like see things that were funny, and I just think, there's a lot of things that I just would think were funny. And so I get to college, I went to Salisbury University, and I went for exercise science, nutrition, and athletic coaching. Just a quick little humble brag there. But my first week of school, they had Last Comic Standing from my university. So it wasn't for the TV show. It was just who is Salisbury's funniest person. The winner got $100, and they got to open up for the professional that came the next semester. And I told my roommate, I was like, dude, I think I'm funny. And he was like, well, you should go for it. And so I had these notebooks, I had these things I was writing down, and I was in college for a week, and I was like, all right, what has happened so far? What have I seen? What is like going on here? What can I riff off of? And I ended up winning Last Comic Standing. I was the only freshman to make it all the way through, and it was like so intimidating too, because like I guess the seniors had done it, and they were like, that was like the big dogs. I was like, oh man, I don't even stand a chance. And then like I went through each round, I made it to the finals, I ended up winning. I was like, well, what? This is crazy. And then so then like they had it in the school paper, all this other stuff. So then I ended up opening up for the professional that came to campus. Then the next year I won again, opened up for the professional academy campus. In the last 2 years of college, they didn't have the competition. So I just asked the student board, I'm like, hey, I've been the student over the last 2 years. Like, can I open up for your professional that's coming? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. I did it all 4 years of college. I thought I lived the dream. And so then I got a job at, I was a bartender for a bit, and then a gym opened up here in Delaware. And, Delaware is not really a comedy mecca. So I figured, you know what? I lived the dream. I did what I always wanted to do. Now it's time to kind of focus on my degree. And I worked there for about a couple months. And a woman by the name of Jessa Reed came up to my desk and she said, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds before I go on tour. I'm like, what are you, a singer? What do you do? She said, I'm a professional stand-up comedian. And I was like, I'll train you for free if you give me the comedy world. And she was like, deal. So I trained her as many times as she wanted a week, and then I'll go to her house afterwards and all the stuff that I'd been writing in high school and college. She was like, okay, this is funny for your college friends, but you got to make this funny for everybody. And you got to, this is too long. And you got to understand that comedy is a business. You can be the funniest person in the room, but if you don't know how to email a booker, you're never going to get any shows. So I took all of her information like a sponge, and I just, listened to her, and then I trained her. And then she put me on a cancer benefit in Delaware. And so I did 20 minutes for the first time as a paid professional. Had a great show. And Jessa ended up losing a whole bunch of weight. And she was like, you know what? Let's keep working together. And so I kept opening for her shows. And we were touring around a little bit on the East Coast, like Jersey and Maryland and Delaware and Pennsylvania, all this other stuff. And wherever she would go, I would just kind of be her opener. And then 2015, I headlined for the first time. And then I actually met a film crew on a way to a show at Caroline's on Broadway, and then we filmed a whole cross country tour. And that was that's kind of how it all began.
I went to one of those shows with Jessa Reed.
Yeah,
and that was at the fire hall or something. It was awesome. I loved it. And I also saw one. You did one at church. That's how Phil and I met. Was how we originally know each other. So we went to the same church, youth group and everything. And so his stand up, if anybody knows Phil's stand up, isn't like church material necessarily.
Yeah, it's not like raunchy, but it's definitely not church. It's not PG. It's kind of in the middle. And that show was actually really funny too, because I was doing a gig in New York. I was doing a filming gig. New York, we were in Connecticut. And so the day of that show, I had to come back from Connecticut, but the people on set were saying, they were like, hey, we might need you a little longer. And so I called my mom, and I was like, I never actually thought the day was going to come that I was going to do it when I agreed to it. But I was like, that's fine, I'll work yourself out. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, I'm about to do stand up in front of my whole church, and I'm like, I don't have anything appropriate for this situation. And so when the producer was like, hey, we may have to be a little longer, I could call my mom, like, hey, I may not make that show, but I'll find another comedian. And she was like, you better show up to this show. And I was like, oh crap. So then they wrapped super early. It was 12 o'clock. I was like, oh crap. I was like, there's no way I thought there was going to be some kind of chance on this show, but there was no chance. And even with traffic, all that stuff, I had plenty of time to make it there. And then I was like, you know what? I get there, and then I was kind of starting off real slow and kind of as churchy as I can get. And then I was like, you know what? We're in the hall building. Let's just let it rip. And then before, the whole church was telling possible sick jokes, and it was fun. It actually worked out. It wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but it actually ended up working out pretty nicely.
I'm certain you've had more embarrassing moments than that.
Yeah. That was a very mild hindsight. No, but yeah.
And so what? I feel like now one of the biggest comedians, or at least most popular, is Matt Rife. In terms of anytime you turn on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you see a Matt Rife doing crowd work or whatever. But so when you're writing a show, so I used to play in bands, and obviously you'd have a set, but I feel like comedy is a little bit different because you have more. There's more. I don't want to say there's more that goes into and take away from musicians, but there's more, I don't know, material that you have to write. So how long does it really kind of take you to hone in your material for a show, or do you have multiple things written and you kind of pull from this proverbial basket, or are you just like, this is my show and this is the same show that like in this city I'm going to kind of do this as I move through this tour?
Yeah, so all the above, really like so. The last thing you said was like kind of what they call a career comedian. A lot of comedians get their 45-minute set or their hour set, and that's their set that they do for the whole year or 2 years, and they tour the country, and that's what they do. And that's like a part of it. That's how I kind of learned stand up. I learned like my material because like when you first start off, you only have 5 minutes of material. Like you only have 5 minutes. So if your 5 minutes isn't doing so hot, it's not like you have anywhere else to go. So it's like you better like figure out a way to win the audience over. And so like as you go, like you learn more stories. So like I think you have to learn stand up. You learn the art to unlearn it and then find your own voice. So it's like you follow the rules of threes. You have your punchline, then your tagline, then your setup punchline. You kind of follow the system. And then like I'm more of a storyteller, so it's like you had to kind of find I had to find my rhythm, my voice, and like really like I had to do my set as if it were a one act play. So it was like a whole arc, and then that way all the callbacks would work, and it was like this whole like one big story. But then like as time went on, then I was like so rigid in my routine. I was like I need to like loosen up a little bit. I don't want to sound rehearsed because that's like part of the art is like being conversational. So I was like that's when you kind of want to test playing with the audience a little bit or like trying things in different order, and then you realize that like okay, so now you have an hour of material. Now you can play. Now it's like, okay, so you're up there. Let's just tell a joke and see how it lands. If it lands really well, then you can kind of riff on that for a little while. And then, or let's say if it doesn't go well, then you can go a whole different route and go, dirtier or cleaner. It's like kind of like you have the freedom to play with it. And then like you can tell like the audience their response that they're in it and they love it. Then it's like you don't want to cut that joke off. And it's like that's when your mind is kind of free, and then like you say things on stage that you didn't rehearse or you just thought of it and you're just like going with it. And that's how you kind of come up with different tags and different ways to say your joke, and instead of just being so rigid. Like you have to like learn it, and then like because then it's like your cadence for the joke would be like this amount of pause, this is what I say, and then like that. But then you kind of learn that it's like okay, well now this audience is belly laughing. I don't want to keep like talking. You want to let that ride out a little bit. So then you just maybe even say something or like, oh, this guy can't even take this joke right now. And a quick little moment where people are like, oh my God, now we're included. And then they love it. So it's like, that wasn't even really rehearsed or, even thought of, but like that energy that you're feeding off the crowd, and you really then you're like, oh wow, like they like this. So it's like, then you can play with it. So like, you really have to learn it. You have to know your jokes. You have to have confidence in your jokes and your material. And then when you get enough material, then you kind of go where the audience will let you go. And then you have the freedom and the confidence in yourself to just like, okay, let's play with this. And now I can be myself. I'm still telling my joke, but also like now you're getting a little bit of me, more so of me, because now it's like the freedom of like, I don't have this strict line by line, which is like even how I learned it. I literally like line. That's what I would say. That's what I would do. I wouldn't even, venture off. But then when you get time on your belt and experience, and it's like, okay, well, now I know this is going to work. We don't really have to just do this line by line. Let's just try a different way to end this joke or a different,
You can fill with unrehearsed stuff.
Wow, like what you did there, PH.
Fill, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I feel like I couldn't do it. Like I feel like, especially because like I would come out with shit and then like it would just tank, and then I feel like you're kind of like I got to give it to you, man. Like that shit would be terrifying, because especially if it's just you, right? And it's like, oh, I thought this was going to be fucking hilarious, and then being able to gauge the crowd to be like, oh, well, maybe it's not landing as it's supposed to, and being able to kind of navigate away. Like I think that would just, I'm done then. Well,
Is it hard to come back from a lost crowd?
Well, so that's the thing too. Is like, so like, you mentioned Matt Rife. He's a big like crowd work guy, but the thing is like sometimes like a lot of comedians try to do crowd work, but if they're not good at it, they end up just wasting time. Hey, are you a couple? How long have you been together? What is your job? Blah blah blah. But if they're just that conversation, but they don't have anything like really funny about that, then that's just like this thing that kind of doesn't really go anywhere. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So like there's a lot of experiences like that, but like the thing is like you don't want to lose the respect from the audience. So like you can lose an audience and gain them back. But if they can tell that you know that you lost them or you're scared on there, then they're going to eat you alive. And it's so hard to come back. But if sometimes like, what I had to learn is that like, sometimes a punchline, let's say they didn't land as hard or something else landed harder than the punchline, that kind of throws you off. But the audience doesn't necessarily know where your punchline is going to be. And so the better that you can just keep your confidence, and even sometimes you don't get that big laugh that you're hoping for, if you don't show it and you kind of just keep going, then you have that respect of the audience, and then like you end up winning them over. Sometimes you do have to work, depending on your lineup. If you're early on in the lineup, that usually just the way it works in the world of comedy is like, the people that assume that if you're the opener, you're the newbie, and you're just going to be the worst. So the audience is always just like, you better be funny or else I'm not going to like this. And so like, you just have to work a little bit harder, but that's where the confidence and the respect is like, you just got to keep that up. Don't lose respect in the audience. And it's a lot tougher to come back, especially if you're turning people off, if people are offended and, whatever, if that's kind of the case, then it's like, that is a lot harder to bring them back. But if you're contracted to do 45 minutes and you're tanking the first 3, man, you better hope you come back, because that's going to be a long time and a long car ride home, and probably the next couple of weeks of like crying yourself to sleep. So,
yeah, that sounds miserable.
And I know too, like whenever I go to a comedy show, like the headliner, like I know they're gonna be funny because I'm paying to like see them, but like the openers are always the one that I feel like the ones that steal the show, because like I don't know who you are, but you're fucking hilarious. And now I'm going to research you and watch more of your shit and tell my friends about you. So I feel like the opening and the support acts have more pressure almost just to like, really shine, because I mean there is a lot riding on that. Like, and I feel like that's the difference between like comedy and music. You go to a concert, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna miss the opening acts unless you're like really into that band and whatever, everyone's out in the parking lot or whatever. But I feel like at a comedy show, like I'm sitting there watching everyone do their thing. Right. So like we saw Chris Hardwick, and he had 3 openers, and they were all fucking just really, really good, and people I've never heard of before. So I feel like it is just a lot of pressure, man. I don't know. I
would definitely rather go to see the opening acts for a comedian than go to see the opening acts for a band.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, how many opening acts have you missed at a concert? Most of them, probably. So I feel like it is different in that regard.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, people are paying for the show, so they know who the headliner is. It's like that headliner has an easy job because like he already has the name, or she has the name. Like that's like one of those things where like, okay, people are already paying for this person, then they're set. So as long as the show is going well, then they should have an easy like layup to really kill the night. But then again, there is like sometimes where your comedy is one of the only things that you can go to and you don't know the lineup. You just go out to a comedy show. So if you're going to a comedy club or a venue, like a lot of times, like if there's not a big headliner, it's just a lineup that you may not know anybody. And so it's like that comedy is like more of that open thing where you just like kind of accept everyone who's showing up. So I think that the opening acts do have a lot more pressure, but then it's like if you understand that you have a lot of pressure, but then you do well, then the whole show does well. There's shows where there's comedians that, let's say, you have a lineup of 8 comedians. Like sometimes you'll have like a standard show where you have a host, a feature, and a headliner. Or you'll have a showcase where you'll have like 8 comedians and everyone's doing a shorter time, but you'll have a lot more. And sometimes you'll have shows where like, 2 or 3 of the comedians aren't doing so well. And then the other ones are better, but the 2 or 3 that didn't do well actually affects the whole show and the audience like being receptive to what you have to say. So if everyone does well, then the whole show does well, then people will remember the night and then they're more likely to come back to a comedy show. But if there's a lot of comedy or comedians that do bad, then they're like, oh, that comedian sucked. I probably won't ever go back again. So
I don't want to waste my night next Saturday going to a shitty time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's just it's a fickle industry, but it's just like anything. You just have to do your best. And and like that, connecting with the audience on every level is just like something that you learn as a performer. it just doesn't happen overnight. Like you have to gain your confidence over time with reps and doing shows and doing longer time and all this other stuff. It all comes with, you'll have great shows, you'll have okay shows, you'll have, whatever, you'll have everything, but it's like, that's all part of like learning how to be the best you can. But now it's like, now I'm at a point, I've been doing this since 2014 on like a professional level. And it's like, I know that I'm going to be good no matter what. So I know that it's like I already having that confidence that it's just like this is what I do. So there's no like that fear of getting up on stage is not there anymore because it's like, okay, this is my job. This is what I do. So like, but that just takes the time and the effort to kind of like really gauge that. And then you get it. It's like sometimes it clicks. Like when I first started, I was like, man, am I ever like some of those comedians would just kill it. I'm like, what are they doing? What are they doing differently that are just like making them so just like so welcoming and so like this is what they're doing. They're killing it. And it's like, and then now it's like everyone has the capability of doing that. It's like your energy you're giving off, and if you're just like that you can do it and you've been doing it, then it's like there's nothing to fear because that's your home. And so it's like, it's just like, these seasoned guys that have been doing it a long time, you have that energy. The energy is what the crowd feeds off of. It's not necessarily what you're saying. It's like even like Dane Cook in his peak. I mean, sometimes you could say some outlandish sentence or whatever. And, the whole arena is going nuts. And it's like, if you look at it, if anyone else says it, they're like, I don't get what are they talking about? When he had it's like, he could just do whatever he wanted. So, that's why I think it's just like you're just getting that credibility and building that up, and that's the key.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think to even like circle back to Dane Cook, I think Dane Cook was one of the first. I think it was 2002, 2003 when the harmful if swallowed or harmful when swallowed special aired. And that was really my first time like getting into like comedy and then watching the 30-minute specials on Comedy Central. But for me, that was also one of the first. So it was always you would buy a CD or whatever, and it was music. But that was the first time that I realized like you can buy comedy in an audio platform, and it was just fucking mind-blowing. And I don't know,
there's a whole station on like satellite radio where they just do comedy. I love that. That would be the only reason that I would get satellite radio back, because otherwise I'm listening to music that I already have.
Apple Music. The thing is though too, like with comedy, like I would much rather be there and obviously watching your body language and kind of, but there's just something like it's just fun. I don't know. And but being able to listen to it and so now with us living in this kind of new digital age where like CDs aren't really like new cars don't even have CD players. So like, do you feel like more people they would rather go and watch, a comedian in person or just scroll through TikTok and watch a 30-second tidbit? Like, have you noticed like a change?
Yeah, there's a huge change. I mean, like, so the thing is too, like, even like, I mean, radio, the series is always going to be a thing, but even like referencing Dane Cook again, I mean, he was a very physical comedian. So a lot of times that he wasn't saying any words, it was just his actions that were making people geek out. But if you're listening to it, you almost have to have the imagination and like wonder, like, what is he doing right now to do this? But right now, I think the stage that comedy is in is like a lot of TikTokers like will have these viral videos. And they're not necessarily stand-up comedians, but they have like funny content. And so they are very marketable for the comedy clubs, which are great, but they're not necessarily like stand-ups. So it's like people come to these shows and they expect them to be doing like the similar things that they're doing on TikTok, but they're not necessarily doing that. So sometimes those shows go well, and sometimes they don't. Because of that, just like because the people they see that thing on TikTok and that's what they want. And so, like, I'll give an example. Morgan Jay he's one of my buddies. He's great. He has the guitar and he's blown up on TikTok, but he's, obviously he has the guitar on stage. So he's not doing the same things you see on the video, but he like, that's what people came to see him for, is to see him sing and see him riff and do that kind of stuff. So it's like, if you have that kind of niche, or skill or whatever, then it's like, then you can be marketable, and people will definitely, they will see you live because they saw you on TikTok.
Yeah, you're a name that they recognize. Is that like old school Bo Burnham, where where he would do the music and the comedy?
Yeah, Bo Burnham.
The
I remember he was just
best.
like, dude, like I was watching him when he was just doing the YouTube stuff, and he had like maybe 100,000 views or something like that, and it's like
Yeah.
it's so crazy to see how much he's like blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And just from being consistent with it, he just kept it up, and now he's like got 3 or 4 specials, and he's got all these like cool music videos, stuff like that. He's a cool guy, super smart too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and true, like especially now, I think back. I don't know, it was a while ago when Joe Rogan went on stage and like blasted Carlos Mencia for taking other people's content, and I feel like I don't know if it was like easier to get away with it now, but I feel like you really do have to be pretty original with the shit that you're putting out now, because I'm going to cross check everything to make sure that that you're not stealing shit. And so like, is there like a fine line? Like, are you allowed to, I don't want to say take other people's shit, but like there's only so much shit to talk about, right? So like, at what point does it come across as you're jacking my jokes and my material, and and this is my own content, but it just kind of has a little bit of what you touched on? So like, is that something that, I'm sure it's still super relevant, like people taking other people's material, but
no, it's like one of those things. I mean, that's like, that can be tough because, like you said, there's so many premises out there. There's so many things. If you have a Facebook joke, anyone who makes a Facebook joke, does that mean that all Facebook jokes are off limits? You know what I mean? Like, so it all depends on take the audience, and like that's why for me, I am sharing personal stories that are a little bit exaggerated, and for that matter of just being like, this is literally just what happened to me. So this is not anything of anyone else's life or anyone else's material, because it's like, this is just what I'm telling you is happening to me. So like that's why I try to be very adamant about just like just I'm telling stories from my life, obviously just sometimes a little bit exaggerated, sometimes verbatim the truth, but just like everything is like some basis of my own truth, so that way I'm avoiding like, oh man, you stole this joke from me. It's like, well, this is literally like what happened to me. So I think it's like possible for humans to have a shared experience, but it's like, I think the joke stealing comes in when it's like the same setup, same punchline. Like you can have a Facebook premise, but go a completely different direction. But if you have the same ending to it of like, whatever the punchline is, and that's where it like becomes like a theft, I guess. But that's why it's like, it's even tough to watch comedians too, because then you really start to question. It's like somebody says something about their dog. It's like, well, now I can't talk about my goddamn dog, or even like sometimes when you do a show, like let's say like because I mentioned I did a gay movie, and so I have a joke that basically I was like, long story short, I just set it up. I didn't know who my co-star was, and so I looked in the script and it says Phil kisses Steve, and I'm like, oh no, like I go through this whole thing, but then I'm like, I see my co-star from across the room, and I start making out with him. It's the best kiss I've ever given anyone, and this guy just like pushes me away, and he's like, bro, I'm just the sound guy. So that's like the punchline of the joke, but so then like for me, like that's like my story or whatever. It's just like kind of the thing, but like there's some lineups where I like that'll be like my predetermined like opener or something, that'll be my joke. But then like 3 comedians before me will make like a gay reference or a gay joke, and then I'm like, now it just seems egregious. Now it seems like it's like we're all like kind of touching on the same thing. And so
you're in on the same joke, yeah.
Right. So it's like it's almost like just being aware of the show. Like every show is different. So like if you are saying a premise or talking about a joke that like 4 comedians just did, then it's like, okay, well, then you're gonna lose a little bit of respect as far as like your originality. But if you're doing a show and you're just aware that all your jokes are completely different than everyone else's jokes that they talked about that night, then it's like that. I think it keeps it more original.
Mm-hmm.
Just paying attention to the show and how it goes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Phil, you, I don't know if you would say that comedy is your passion necessarily, or would you say maybe that is? But I know you said that you're making movies now. You're kind of in that. Is this the next phase? Is this your new passion? Can you tell us about that and like what's all involved with that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So, I mean, so we had mentioned this a little bit. You know, there's TikTok, there's social media, there's so many platforms now. And it's like, I know comedians personally who have been on late night that still have a restaurant job. So it's like, not like it used to be like the way you made it was you got on Johnny Carson, you were famous. That was it. You're a comedian. Officially, that was your life. And your life was different from that day on. But now, like, things have changed. So you have to be multifaceted. And for me, like, like I don't think that I mean, I think that there are comedians that do it, but like you have to utilize the resources that we have to get yourself out there. So I got into TV and film production because I was like, well, this is another way that I can promote my name and promote myself. So it's like I want to have credibility. I want to have respect. I want to have skill sets that maybe other people don't have, or editing video. All this stuff is like part of the entertainment world. So I always like consider like Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, all these like people who are like great actors, but also like great comedians. And they changed the game for both worlds, and they were able to do both. And so I feel like now we're at that age where you have no choice but to be relevant and do it any way you can. And so I found really a lot of enjoyment in filming, and I work for comedy festivals across the country. We have a festival coming up this September, and then we have one in Sacramento. We have all these festivals that we do, and I was started to do some video work for them, and then I was like, oh man, I really enjoy this, and then I started to act, and then it's like you learn these skills that like I think that being a filmmaker is not going to make me a better stand-up comedian. You have to be you have to practice stand-up to be a better stand-up comedian, but having films and having credits in different areas is going to help my marketability as far as my stand-up. It's like, okay, so this guy did stand-up, oh, he just this movie that came out, and he did this and he did this. It's like that's the way that I kind of want to trickle my name so that people know who I am, and they know me more than just one thing. They were like, oh man, I saw his movie, or I didn't know he was a stand-up, I didn't know he did this. I want people to have multiple pathways to find me, because I think that's like just like so important with just the dawn of social media.
They
You just
can
have to,
consume all of your different media types. If they
yeah.
can't get enough of your comedy, here they go. Here's my movies. Go ahead and
Yeah.
eat that up. Go ahead and eat my, whatever. I like your videos that you'll post on Instagram or wherever. Just they're corny, funny, like gym videos or whatever you do. Like they're very funny.
They're
You
corny.
recorded one at my house.
Yeah.
It's very funny. It's
And
there's such
yeah, yeah, no, sorry, I mean, I cut you out, but the whole thing was like, so the movie thing was like, it was cool because like I'm a natural storyteller, so that's why I do my stand up. But it was kind of interesting for me to start working in drama or working in horror, working in other things that are not necessarily my wheelhouse. And so that was just a cool way for me to like tell the story differently. And I like that whole aspect of it, as being able to tell a story in so many different ways. You have you can paint a different light on how you want to do it, and that's what I think that makes storytelling kind of beautiful art in general. That's like even in a horror there's some comedy, or even in a drama there's some comedy, so there's always a way to bring comedy in, but also there's a way to expand other genres of all that kind of stuff.
So, do you have anything currently like lined up that you're working on or that you're able to share with us? Or is it like, I know like sometimes that stuff is super secretive. So
Yeah, well, so yeah, two things coming out this fall. I can't say the streaming service yet, but it will be this fall. I have a horror film called The Farmhouse, about a man who is reliving the traumas of his childhood and cannot decipher what is real and what is from his past. And I have a boxing movie, basically about an underground boxer who is challenged into having a second championship fight, and the fate of the fighter is determined on whether or not he's willing to throw the fight.
okay.
kind of like Mike Tyson coming up soon.
Yes, exactly like that. He's actually featured in the film.
I heard he's actually really a great person to like work with. I heard he's like really friendly,
Oh yeah,
surprisingly.
yeah. I'm so sure he is. He's done a lot of acting stuff too. He's like, what was he in Hangover?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was that kind of like his resurgence into like the world? I mean, that was what, in 2009, And that was like the first time we really saw like Mike Tyson again, you know, after the whole ear biting and
He took a break and rebranded.
yeah, right. And it worked.
Yeah,
And now he's everywhere.
I feel like because he's like he almost seems like now that he almost like rebranded himself, he just seems like a very like soft spoken, like heartfelt kind of guy. I just feel like he's like maybe going through some kind of like weird spiritual journey or something like that. But he like seems like he's just like very kind and genuine and yeah, he's kind of like from that tough like boxer type to being like, oh no,
Right.
So who do you think's going to win that fight?
Ooh, that's tough. That is tough.
Right. We Eric and I talked about this a few weeks back. I still don't think I'd want to be in a ring with Mike Tyson ever.
I think he's still.
Like,
I think he's still just a beast, an animal.
I think he's a silent killer, if you will, because like for the amount of years that he's spent on training, all that stuff like that, muscle memory, he's got it. I think he's got the power. He's got everything. He knows his wheelhouse. You know, he knows everything that he can know. But now it's like, you know, you're taking an old school boxer to a newer guy. So it's like, I feel like the old school guys know some tricks that like you wouldn't. I don't know. I would have confidence in him that he would still just like kick some ass.
I bet if some way you put this on paper, like the whole scenario, this is one of the Rocky movies. Like it's got to be, right? Are there like seven? Five, there were 5 originally, and then he came back and did one more. And now there's the Creed
newest
movies.
one.
And now this is the new Rocky
Them
movie.
Streaming it on Netflix.
As like let's say people like us who like kind of grew up with Mike Tyson, would that let's say if he got murdered, wouldn't that change your view of him or?
Probably.
Yeah,
I mean, he's still. I think he's still.
So he's fighting. Is it Jake Paul or Logan Paul? Jake Paul, right?
Yeah,
or is it Logan? One of the Paul
Pauls.
brothers.
Yeah.
And I don't know like his stats. You know, like
Oh, yeah, disclaimer. I don't really know shit about boxing.
Yeah, right.
I'm a very fair weather. I'll just I'll just go to somebody's house that already bought the pay-per-view.
Yeah,
sure. Well, and they're smart doing it on Netflix because pretty much every household has a Netflix account or they're taking someone else's account, you know.
Did you watch the live Tom Brady roast?
No, not yet. I need to.
I didn't.
Great things.
Yeah, it was. I liked a lot of it. There was a lot. I'm a sucker for roasts. I think it's so like when they go in and just go real grimy, and it's like,
oh sure.
I don't want to say cringy, but it's just like, wow, they're really pushing the boundaries. Some of them do. But
well, and then sometimes it just doesn't land.
Yeah.
Like there's always the one person where it's just like, ooh, like they're trying way too hard to like make a funny joke or to be edgy, and it's just like,
Yeah, well, I thought that the show was not live. I was like, there's no way that they're actually doing it live. They're just saying that it's live from Netflix. But they, I think I don't want to say scandal, but they said that when Kim Kardashian came up from the crowd and she delivered some lines. She started roasting. And before she said anything, people were booing her and booing her. They booed her for probably like an uncomfortable like 15 to 20 seconds.
And like, what's the reasoning behind
booing her?
Yeah.
I think people just generally don't like her, but also roast. So like it's okay to just be nasty. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not endorsing it or saying it's not funny or not funny. I laughed when people booed her, but whatever.
Sure.
But apparently when they released it, they edited out all the booing. So when you watch it, listen for right before she comes up. You would never be able to miss it unless they edited it out.
Interesting.
So it was live once, and then
and now it's not live, so they can do whatever the fuck they want to it.
But it's a roast. Like that's just what you do. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember whose roast it was, but I think it was Flava Flav, and maybe it was Kimmel who made a joke that Chris Benoit was a better dad than Flava Flav, and that was right when Benoit like killed himself and his entire family, and they left that shit in, you know. And so, but booing is where the line is kind of drawn, you know. Like it's so like arbitrary on like what.
I bet Kim was like, "Hey, Netflix, come on, just cut that out."
Then don't go on a roast. Yeah. You know, like don't go on.
If you're gonna go to a roast, you're a famous person, expect to get burned, right?
Yeah, right.
But all right, let's talk
And
about this. Since we're talking about the editing and all that stuff, do you think that say this fight between Jake or Logan Paul and Mike Tyson is rigged, or is it like a set, like they have a predetermined outcome already?
Victor,
And
yeah.
it's just like a scripted thing that they know they can make a lot of money on. So they're like, okay, here's what's gonna happen. Like you're gonna go at it for a couple rounds, blah blah. Then you're gonna get knocked out in round 8, whatever. Like.
Making
Sure,
sure people a ton of money.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Like I want to put on my tinfoil hat for that one because like I feel
we should be careful with this one. We should edit this out.
I know, yeah, right. I'm gonna have to clean this up in post because, but I don't know.
Yeah,
like
this year or this last football season, there were a lot of people that were like,
it's scripted. It
like,
was
the
in the
whole
script.
NFL season, and then with everything with the Chiefs, getting there, it was like, how could they not make more money off of the Taylor Swift fans?
Oh
Well,
the whole craze like went up because like teenage girls are into football, which they never were before. They
I mean, look, if the NFL is a business and their goal is to make as much money as possible, yeah, the Chiefs are winning.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Taylor Swift, I heard, pulled in how many millions and millions of dollars essentially for the NFL with that whole new group of people coming in, and
my favorite thing was when guys would go, he's dating this girl, she's a singer or something, Swift something. Like they had no idea who Taylor Swift was.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, there's a whole page, and it's like about the refs. Like, it's like when you're about to score a touchdown, but it's not in the script, and then it like pans over to like the ref like going up and slapping the ball out of whoever is about to score his hand. I don't know, man. Like for me, I feel like the fight coming up has a higher chance of being having a predetermined outcome than the NFL. To be like, that's what I believe. And I don't even know if that's the case, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it could just be like wrestling where it's just entertainment and it's going to make us a shitload of money.
Right. So that's where I think. So I think this is a fun topic to like talk about because it's like we really don't know, and it's like the entertainment and wrestling is just like the magic is believing in it and believing it's real. Like the Santa Claus thing. It's like you lose the magic when you realize it's not real. So it's like the thing is like it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? So I consider like just as like a thought, like like you have to have the skill to do it, right? So like the Harlem Globetrotters. They do outlandish stuff, but they do these things and these tricks that are so weird, but it's like they have to be good at what they do. So it's like these NFL players and these people, they have to be good. It's not like you can throw a 90-yard pass and be like, this is going to be a guaranteed catch. Like you still have to have the skills to catch it. So I think that there are parts that are real, but I also do think that there is like almost like a loose script, if you will, maybe like, because then it's like really like why, like if you think about even TV. And sorry for the listeners who, think this is all real, but like even game shows, all that stuff, you think that like you're watching a cooking show and they're like, literally they have 30 minutes to cook this thing. There's a lot more to it. Like, I did a Play-Doh competition game show on Amazon Prime called Squish. And it was as real as it could be. But I mean, like we did that whole shoot in 3 days. And so obviously that is edited to make it seem like it's all like live at that moment. But even our Play-Doh design was like predetermined by the producers. Like we had to make our design with the Play-Doh, send it to the producers, and they had to approve it. And then it was like, okay, so then it was like they made it seem like we're thinking about this on the fly, which is like kind of what they do in the game shows and things like that, because it's like you can't have all that variability. They need to have like a set kind of like, I can't just be up on Amazon Prime just making, thick, whatever out of Play-Doh. Like they have to know that we're not going to be doing stuff like that. So like it's just like as the progression for the production company and all that stuff, there's a lot more. That's why they call it TV magic. There's a lot more to it than what we see as the audience. Even reality shows like let's say Real World or Road Rules, like those are things where it's like it may not be scripted, but they're painting a character. Like that person is going on there to be someone, to be the jerk, to be this, because that's how they're going to paint the whole picture. And you're not necessarily they're not like this isn't like Jersey Shore isn't like these guys coming together and they're like, oh yeah, this is like they're trying to paint a picture, and then you got to think. Let's say they have, well, I'm gonna just throw out 15 hours of footage. They're picking and choosing very specifically what they show you.
Yeah.
So it's like loosely based off of a script. There's not like I don't think it's possible to have like a complete outcome. Like, cause even like, your kicker, people are catching the ball, throwing the ball, all that stuff, like people get hurt. That's real. Like all that stuff is real.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I don't think there's a way to like completely script stuff like that. I just like, I don't think that could be possible, but there is probably like deals, there's probably like, buyouts and things like that. That's like, oh, well, I'm teaching kids in Pop Warner how to shave points, so it's like you gotta learn some kind of skill.
I heard that's even true for like Master Chef and Master Chef Junior, where they're like, hey Eric, you're making this today. I'm gonna show you how to make it, because as a 8-year-old, you probably don't know how to make
Master Chef Junior.
Yeah, like you don't know how to make this stuffed salmon with a,
and it wouldn't be good TV to have a kid go
asparagus, right? So they work with them, but then it makes it seem like, oh my God, that kid at home is a prodigy. But
I hate that.
they're definitely like not doing that.
I just
like,
assume nothing is real. That's it.
That's
I
fair.
just assume
Yeah.
nothing is real.
Yeah, I love that too. Nothing's real.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy, but nothing is real. Everything is. There's no original thoughts.
Yeah, everything and nothing. I think there were means of everything and nothing. It all matters, but it doesn't matter. At the same time.
All living in a simulation.
Yeah.
Get real existential over here.
Yeah, right.
Now we're not gonna get any sleep. Now we're gonna be like, no, we can't watch football anymore, man.
I love the meme where you're what is it? The guy sleeping next to his brain, and his brain goes, "Hey, you was sleeping." He goes, "Yeah, almost." And and then the brain says something real like prophetic or like something to make you really scratch your head and think.
Or I like the ones where it's like, hey, remember in 2nd grade when you tripped in front of everybody and everyone laughed at you?
Just relive that forever.
No, I'm definitely not sleeping.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so I don't even know what this means for me. I hopefully it doesn't like kick me out of the TV industry, but like I like kind of knowing these things, because it's like you think that
Sure.
just like even like just watching TV and then having experience to be on it, you just realize that things are different. It's just a production. So like for example, America's Got Talent, you always have the acts at the beginning that are like, oh, who is this? Is always like outlandish or some kind of weird talent. They're like, why would they actually like air this person? But one is for entertainment, and two is usually a paid actor or comedian, because most of the time comedians in America's Got Talent do not do well. They expect 7 genuine laughs in the 90 seconds that you do your set, and so a lot of people don't do well in that. But if let's say if they have an idea, if the production has an idea of like this random character, they will hire a comedian to do the character, get the screen time. They will not make it through the next round, but now on their resume they can say they were on America's Got Talent.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Who was that guy on American Idol? Oh, she moved.
William Hung.
William Hung. Absolutely had to have been a plant, right? Like, there's no way. It's just too good.
That was like, what, like the 1st or 2nd season of American Idol? Like,
long time
and then he
ago.
put out that Christmas album.
Yeah,
and that
I bought
sold
it.
millions.
I bought all of his
Yeah, hell
albums.
yeah. William Hung was awesome.
Yeah, I love it. What is he
I-
doing now? Let's have him on the podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, you know what?
Let's go.
You think he would do it? We
I
should
think
get
so.
William Hung.
Sure.
Like-
If he performs a song. Just that's.
There's got to be like, I miss that guy so much. Bring him back.
yeah. That's some name recognition.
Hell yeah. Fucking
Man.
William Hung. I literally forgot about him until 2 seconds ago.
Wow, I wish I could show you guys a CD. I have it somewhere in this house, but I definitely ever bought. The
Text it
same
to us.
day,
Text it to us
Yeah.
later. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Christmas Day and William Hung were the first CDs I ever bought.
Wait, did you say Hoobastank?
Yeah,
Nice.
crawling in the dark.
That album was my
I
shit,
could like
man.
that.
Yeah,
I might have only.
good.
I might have only known that one song on the whole album, but I liked it.
Oh, what Well, and then their second album came out. What was that song? The Reason. And then
Changed the vibe to them. It was like
yeah, it did.
Pop.
And I feel like that's like now when people think of Hoobastank, they think of that. But like Crawling in the Dark, man, I remember like hearing that on like now that's what I call Music 3 or whatever. That was the
I love
fucking
those
shit,
too.
man.
That was actually my
Those-
jam. But otherwise, I didn't listen to Hoobastank because I was real gangster. I listened to a lot of rap music.
You went through rap phase, yeah.
I sure
It's
did.
funny. It's funny to think about, like even the change in like the style of music. I feel like I missed that like kind of '90s like grungy like
Oh yeah.
that rock. That's like it's not. I don't think that we have like that kind of music anymore. Like there was just so like what was it like Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Mm. Yeah, well, you know what are we doing next week, Greg and Phil? If you're around next week, we have
Emo Prom, baby.
emo prom for Shay's birthday.
That's fun. Okay, yeah.
So it's up in Philly, but we're getting a bus. It's a school bus that's going to take us, and we're going to drink in the school bus
Hell yeah.
on the way up
and
to
then
Philly. So-
rock out to all the early to mid 2000s
emo music.
emo hits.
That's your shit, Greg.
Yeah. Fucking I saw like they were like it was just like a whole bunch of like pun on bands and like, you know, like Fall Out Boy, Panic, fucking the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus was in there, Boys Like Girls.
Is it going to be live bands?
I'm sure it's going to be a live band just covering a whole
Okay,
shitload
good.
of fucking songs. It's probably just going to be one though. Like I doubt they're going to have multiple sets.
Okay,
Like it's going to
good,
just
good,
be
good.
probably a band.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah, me too. I'm here for it.
Yeah, that's very cool. This is such a random topic, but I'm just bringing it up because it was like part of Eric and I's life. So we would go to church, and I think every Sunday, him and I would draw comics, and like I would draw a character with a caption, and then I would pass the notebook over the pamphlet that they give you at church, and then he would write a comic. And I like that I feel like we had some like genius moments like of just pure comedy. And this like everyone's falling asleep in church, and here Eric and I are geeking out at our own little comics, and we're like looking down, and we're like, dude, that
Wasn't it like stick figure stuff sometimes? And we would make the stick figures like, hey, I just blew up your stick figure. And, or like, I don't even remember half of these things. We should have kept them.
I have them too. Next time we air this, dude, I'm literally going to whip them out. I think we had this guy that would like give free bread out of his car, out of his car
He
trunk.
would. He worked at like a
Wait,
bakery.
to like the people of the church.
Yeah, he would fill up his trunk
Okay.
with bakery goods that the bakery was going to have to throw out. And I remembered the one that we would always want to grab. I was like, "Hey, Mom, how do you say this bread?" And she said, "It's focaccia." And I would go, "Focaccia." Is the closest thing to a bad word I could say.
Yeah,
The
he was
bread
always in our
itself was
comics.
ass.
We're always drawing the bread guy. But we had some epic. We would fill out these whole books of things that were like super cool comics.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was just a random fun memory, but that was like my favorite memory of church.
Drawing in the pews.
Yeah, when the preacher wasn't falling asleep himself, that's what we did to keep ourselves entertained.
My man was old.
Shout out, shout out to yellow fingernails.
So he's definitely dead now.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's got to be. He's got to be.
He's not like a great guy somewhere. He's living it up.
I love it.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So this has been really cool, man. I actually I love what you guys are doing, and I think that this is like that whole comic thing was just to say that like at an early age, Eric and I knew that we are going to be in some kind of like entertainment.
Yeah, it's interesting to see it all kind of come full circle. For us, we've been trying to get and do more of these interviews just because when it's Eric and I, like that's fine and dandy. But something that we realized early on was like, hey, we bring other people in who are also relatable to, you listen to Joe Rogan, and nothing against Joe Rogan. He's a multi-millionaire, but it's also he's interviewing multi-millionaires and billionaires who aren't really relatable to the people that listen to him. For us, it's like, hey, let's actually get people who are down to earth, and maybe have advice and knowledge to kind of share on. Maybe there's a aspiring comedian or actor who listens, you know, and they're like, oh, well, if he did it, so can I, you know, just put in the work and figure it out. And so that's kind of like how we want to structure our show. And you know, we're starting to reach out to musicians, and we were doing a slew of like soap makers
There's
for
all
a while,
soap people for a while.
but you can only do so much soap stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, you know, and that's why we were like, all right, well, and we've been talking about having you on for a while now. And then I died when we were supposed to have you on a couple weeks back. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time.
Well, it seems that Phil might have got the message. Right over my left, your right, I think, Phil, is a picture of me wearing a Pinocchio costume from the Shrek party that I went to a couple days ago. Can you see that, Greg? Over? Do you see the Pinocchio picture?
Wait, is that the fucking?
That's a picture of me wearing the Pinocchio costume, right? Is that Pinocchio?
Yeah.
And we said we were going to put it up on the feed for last week's episode, and we just didn't.
There it is.
I got you.
Sorry, I just noticed it as we were
fucking
talking.
great.
Yeah, there you go. I got you, man. Right into my
Well,
house.
Phil, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Eric, is there anything else you wanted to add?
Phil, thanks for being on the show. You're one of my oldest friends, like I said, and it means a lot for you to be on here and you know, just chat it up.
Yeah, same, man. I appreciate being here, and I love what you guys are doing. And congrats on being dads. You know,
Thanks. Yeah.
I was
Thank
a
you.
nanny once, so you know I get it.
You were a nanny. You're gonna have to tell us all about that the next time you come on.
Yeah, for
I would
sure.
love to. That's the stories for. Oh man, I can go on for days because I almost killed those kids, but not by
Not on like purpose.
exactly hanging around there.
Just,
The kids are alive, by the way.
that's fair. That's all that really
Disclaimer.
matters. Yes, disclaimer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Greg,
And I'm Eric.
and we are the Daddies. Thank you for listening.